A great skill to acquire in this world is the ability to communicate to someone else in another language. The first step I would take in doing so would be trying to gain a good vocabulary. This can start off with 1 to 100 words to thousands of words, and if you're lucky enough to remember 10,000 words, this is a great thing, you'll always improve it. The second part of learning everything would be your grammar. Grammar is how to organize those words, how to use it, how to use what, where, if you're talking about the future, the past, the present, and how many people if it's plural. Also with other languages that English doesn't have is the use of formal and informal speech, which changes everything on how you talk to people and people you don't know. The last part of learning would be able to understand the spoken language. You have to be able to talk in this language, you have to be able to say things correctly with an accent that you are looking to use, if it's regional, if there's only one accent for the language, and such. There's also the ability to be able to hear what people are saying so you can communicate with them. Languages are the ability to communicate with people from all over the world. The more words you know, the stronger your vocabulary will be. This is just the biggest tool you can have. So like I said before, you can start off with just 10 words. Add 10 words a week. Add 20 words a week. Have 10 words a day. However your learning ability is how fast you can progress in this. You can get up to 1,000 words, like say with German almost being my next native language, which I've always had. I have 3,000 words memorized in German. I use a list. I usually write the English and the German on one side, and I'll cover it up with a piece of paper, and I'll be able to look at every word in German, know it, and then I can remove the paper, make sure I said it correctly, and I know I have the word memorized. I gain all these words mostly from basic vocabulary books, a dictionary. You can look at stuff for everyday uses. You can look at stuff for what's colors, what's a desk, what is a TV, everything like that. And then progressing there into more difficult words, you can start to look at the news websites. For German, it's Nachrichten. For Russian, Novosti. Spanish and Portuguese is Noticias. You look at all these websites for all these different countries, you'll see a bunch of words you've never seen in your life, and you'll want to learn what they are. So for your list, you start writing all these words down. The order doesn't matter unless it's important to you. Research what those words mean, write it down, and try to memorize it. The biggest thing though is probably mostly everyday situations if you don't want to get too crazy into the language and just learn the basics of it. But 100 words is a beginner in that language, is the foundation. No matter how you look at it, it's the most important thing. On top of all this, grammar is the next thing you'll need. It is a set of rules for the language. Kind of the simple, just walk before you can run. You're going to want to learn all the basic grammar. Maybe you start off with just plural. What does taking a noun and making it plural look like, and how can I apply that to all the nouns I know? You're going to want to learn things about informal and formal language. How do you talk to adults? How does that differ from how you talk to friends? How does it differ to people you've never met to people you've known for 20 years? All this matters mostly in every other language but English. Ours doesn't focus too much on that, except for sir and miss. But it gets more complicated, but it makes things more easier to remember once you've learned it, and it makes more sense and more respectable than other languages. Then you're going to want to move on to the more harder stuff, learn more about the dative classes, all the different classes of languages that, if I'm using it in this, is it mine, is it minum, mina, minus, the male and female version of all the words, because most languages, especially out of Europe, all have a male version and a female version of how to say things, and that changes everything quite a bit. And then for the hardest part of all this is how to say a whole sentence, combining is it male, female, what class, how many, changing all the words into this, and it gets pretty confusing and complicated, and that's something to focus on later, but it's organizing all the words you have learned after a period of time. The next thing you're going to want to do is be able to read and write in the language. If you can read and write in the language, that is the best foundation you can have for it. You're gaining an understanding, but also with that, your brain can only read and write. You have to know what these languages sound like. So, if you're able to watch the news, if you're able to speak to a native speaker, this will increase your chances of being able to know the language and speak it perfectly. Everything is way better and way more understandable once you gain an ear for it. That is having the language. Once you have the vocab, the organized grammar, and the language. It is nothing better than being able to talk and be able to talk back to somebody. Talking to different places, people from different places opens your mind. The first thing you'll have to do is build a strong vocabulary list. Next, like I said, you're going to want to have your grammar to organize it. Then you're going to be able to read, write, speak, and be spoken to. Understanding all these languages and learning opens your mind, and no matter what, it will create a better life for you.